Are we waiting on something or are we almost ready to go?
We're ready to start anytime you are, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then we'll get the show on the road. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this online hearing by the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Ottawa under the Planning Act. This video conference is also live streaming on YouTube. With me are my fellow panel members, Jocelyn Chandler, Stephen Lewis, and Terrence Otto. My name is Martin Vervoort, and I will be chairing this hearing today in the absence of our normal chair, Fabien Poulin. The procedure for this hearing will be as follows. Listed on the agenda and appearing on the screen are the applications we will hear today. For the sake of efficiency, the committee may deal with the agenda items in a different order. Committee members have reviewed the planning reports and any written submissions in support or in opposition to each of the applications. Today, we will hear oral submissions from any of the interested parties. As part of the statutory public notification requirements, each applicant was required to post a sign on the property and file a statutory declaration confirming the sign posting. This declaration must be on file today before we can hear the application. Without it, we may have to adjourn the application or administer an oath if necessary. Can the coordinator confirm that we have received the statutory declarations for the applications?
Hi, Mr. Chair. Yes, we have received for item number 6 and 7. Item number 5 and 6.
Okay, so we'll administer oaths for the remainder of the applications that we hear today then. Thank you.
Thank you.
The committee may ask for a brief presentation of the application followed by questions from members and submissions from the public. Please address your comments to the chair, starting with your name and spelling it if necessary, and your municipal address for the record. The committee normally limits presentations to 5 minutes, and any exceptions will be in the discretion of the chair. All right, then we'll now proceed with the agenda items. Are there any declarations of interest that the members of the committee wish to declare at this time?
None.
Mr. Lewis? Mr.
None.
Otto? Mr. Otto?
None for Mr. Otto.
And Mr. Chandler? Okay, and I have none to declare as well. I don't believe we're confirming minutes today. Is that correct, Madam Coordinator?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Before we start hearing the applications today, I believe there are 2 adjournment requests that we have to deal with. The first one is agenda item number 3, and the planning department has requested an adjournment of the application, I believe, to amend the environmental impact statement to include the proposed building envelopes for the proposed severed lots. Maybe we can hear from planning first on that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. The department is seeking an adjournment for the applications ending in D-B-00103 and B-00104, as we require a revised EIS that shows a development envelope on the retained parcel, and that include a grow, and the revised EIS should also include a growing season survey of the site. The department is satisfied that the application for the surplus farm dwelling can proceed at this time.
Okay. Perhaps we can hear from Mr. Coop, the owner, on his position on this request. Is Mr. Coot available?
We're just bringing him in as a panelist. He should be online in a moment.
Thank you. while we're waiting, Mr. Walker, in the event that the application to adjourn your request to adjourn is granted, how long do you think would be an appropriate time to adjourn?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I had a conversation with the applicant last week, and I was in contact with the applicant's consultant, and he said that he would be able to prepare the revised report in a few weeks. So I'm thinking in a month and a half to 2 months would be sufficient.
Okay.
Finally. I'm sorry, somehow we were disconnected. I was trying to tell you that we have made arrangements for the EIS survey to be done, and it will be done the first week of August. We have no other.
Okay, Mr. Coote. Mr. Walker, I'm not sure if you heard his submission, but he's proposing that the matter be put over to one of the meetings in September, maybe the second meeting in September. I don't know if that's acceptable to you or if what your views on the matter are.
That should be fine because I've been assured that the resurvey will be done, as I said, in the first week of August, so we should have everything that we need by then.
Okay. Mr. Walker also indicated that we could proceed with your application for the surplus farm dwelling if you wanted to do that today, or we can just deal with all of them at the same time when we come back in September. I
would like us to proceed with that surplus farm dwelling today, if that's possible.
Okay. Alrighty. So if that's okay, then I'll ask the members to approve the adjournment of applications B00103 and 104 until the meeting, which would be September the 16th. All those in favor of adjourning those two applications? Ms. Chandler?
You want me to say yes? Yes.
Okay. Mr. Otto?
Yes, but a point of order, do you not have to administer an oath for the signs before we can proceed?
Well, we'll get back to the, I'll administer the oath when we deal with the other application.
Okay, yeah, but very good. Then I'm in favor.
And Mr. Lewis?
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coote. We'll get to your application, the one application that we can hear today. We'll get to it as we go through the agenda, okay?
Thank you.
So you can just stand by. And I believe the other item that we have an adjournment request on is agenda item number 7. And that concerns the property at 3368 Carling and 1 Bedale Drive. Is the agent, Ms. Hill, on the line for that?
Hello.
Good morning.
I was cut off for a moment there. Is it my turn to speak?
Yes, if you could just state your name and your address for the record, and then we'll just discuss the adjournment request.
Okay, it's Rosalind Hill. My address is 414 Churchill Avenue North.
Okay, thank you. And my understanding is that you're requesting an adjournment today to allow a little bit of time for further consultation with the neighbors and the community association. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're trying to solve a problem or to find a solution that allows the preservation of the neighbor's cedar hedge And we're well on our way, but because of soils conditions, we realized the solution we'd hammered out yesterday won't quite fit the bill. So we've got to give it another shot, and we'd like to come back in 2 weeks.
Okay, so that would bring us to August the 5th. Would that give you enough time to have your consultations?
Yes.
Okay. Ready? I'm assuming planning is fine with that, so I'll just ask the members of the committee if everyone's in favor of adjourning this matter to August 5th. Mr. Lewis?
In favor.
Mr. Otto?
In favor.
Ms. Chandler?
Yes.
Thank you. So Ms. Hill, the application will be adjourned then to the hearing on August the 5th. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I believe those are all the adjournment items that we have to deal with today. So we'll proceed with hearing the applications in the order that they appear on the agenda. So the first item to address is agenda item number 1, which is an application by Amland Developments concerning the property at 171 Cowley in Kitchissippi Ward. I believe the agent on that is Mr. Segreto.
I see Mr. Segreto's on there, Martin.
Okay, Mr. Segreto?
Looks like he's on mute.
Mr. Segreto, are you there?
Mr. Segreto, can you hear us?
No, he can't.
Mr.
Can we
Segreto?
phone him?
Should we stand this matter down and proceed with the other ones, or are we still trying to connect?
It would appear that his microphone is not working at this time.
Okay, what we'll do then is we'll stand down these 2 applications and then hopefully get that corrected. And then in the meantime, I think we'll move ahead with the other applications.
Good morning. Good
Oh,
morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Segreto. How are you?
Morning, Mr. Very good.
Good. So could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Michael Segreto, and the address is 30 Concourse Gate, Unit 47. I am the agent on behalf of the applicants.
Okay, and this is for agenda item number 1, 171 and 169 Cowley. I understand that the that the statutory declaration has not been filed regarding sign posting, so I'm going to administer an oath confirming that the appropriate signage was posted. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. So you can proceed and just give us a very brief overview of the application. I think it's fairly straightforward.
Mr. Chair, this is an application in front of you for an existing two-story semi-detached that is presently under construction. What we're trying to do, obviously, is just to get the severance through so we can have separate ownership for each parcel of land at Cowley. So the prospective owners can sell each half of the units.
Okay, and have you had an opportunity to review the proposed conditions from the Planning and Development Department?
Yes, I have. I've looked at the conditions. I don't have any issues with the cash in lieu of parkland that has to be paid. And the other conditions are fine. They're pretty straightforward.
Okay. Mr. Walker, any comments or concerns?
Chair, staff has reviewed the application and has no concerns with it.
Thank you. Members of the committee, Mr. Lewis, any comments or concerns?
No, in favor of the application. Thank you.
Ms. Chandler?
I'm struggling a little bit with my mute today, but I have no comments.
Okay. Mr. Otto?
No comments.
Okay. I just have one question, Mr. Segredo. When all this is being done, I'm assuming there'll be a party wall agreement registered on title as well.
Yeah, the surveyors are taking care of that as we speak. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other comments or questions, so it appears to be straightforward. I think the committee's in support of this. I'll just poll the members of the committee. Ms. Chandler, in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Support, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So the application is approved, Mr. Segredo.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe you're on the next one as well. Is that correct?
It is 1177, 1179 Kingston. It's very similar to what we did on Cowley.
Okay. Yes, they're almost identical applications, I believe. So again, I'll have to administer the oath regarding the sign posting. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. So again, maybe you can just give us a very brief description or just bring up the plan showing the property and the proposed severance.
Again, this is a brand new semi-detached that is being built presently under construction. And we're going for separate ownership for each part, for part one and part two. It's a straight severance that's in front of you. We have several services, lot grading, drainage have been approved. So we're just applying to get the application approved for severance.
Okay, so basically it's virtually identical to the last application. Okay.
That's right.
Comments from Mr. Walker in planning?
Mr. Chair, staff has no concerns with the severance.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, Mr. Otto?
Yes,
Any
I'm in
comments?
favor.
Sorry, Mr. Otto, I interrupted you. Oh, I think you're still
I'll
on.
try it again. Yes, I am in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Support,
Okay, Ms. Chandler?
I have no comments.
Okay, and Mr. Segredo, again, are you fine with the proposed conditions?
Yes, I've gone over the conditions, and again, cash and lieu is in play here, and lot grading and drainage. I'm fine with all the conditions of severance.
Okay, thank you. It appears the committee is in support of the application, so I'll just ask the committee members to vote on the matter. Ms. Chandler?
I'm in support of the application.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
Support.
Mr. Otto?
I'm in support.
Okay. Your application is approved, Mr. Segredo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. Thank you.
So now we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, and we'll deal with application B00106, which is the application for the surplus farm dwelling. Is Mr. Coote, Mr. and Mrs. Coote, are you still here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
We're back again. The system here out in the country, our Wi-Fi internet connection is not what it could be.
Okay.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, we're back.
A number of us live out near your area, so we can sympathize with your issues, Mr. Coote. So just before we begin dealing with your application, I have to have you confirm that the proper signage was posted on the property. So I'm just going to administer an oath, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes, we do. We do so swear.
Okay, thank you. Now, my understanding is that you're wanting to sever off the existing farmhouse from the property as it is surplus to the needs. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And is the farm being sold, or what's the purpose of the surplus farm severance?
Well, no, the farm is not being sold at this time. We are both reaching the age where it's becoming increasingly difficult to manage the farm, and we would like to have the option available to us if an offer was made on the farm property, but we greatly enjoy living in this house and would like to continue to live in this house for as long as we are physically able.
Okay.
If we're able to sever the house from the farm property, we will continue to farm it, but I can't tell you for how long. It may be for 1 year, maybe 2. It just depends on my health and my wife's health and whether we can continue to, because there's a lot of work.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Walker, comments on this application?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The department has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with the surplus farm dwelling severance. It's important to note that the property, due to OPA 180, the property is split designated, and that's why the portion of the property that fronts onto Mansfield Road is eligible for a surplus farm dwelling severance because that portion is designated as agricultural resource areas. The severance complies with the policies of the official plan, and both lots will be in compliance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Comments from members of the committee? Ms. Chandler.
No, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Mr. Otto?
I guess because it's ag, does the person have to go through a rezoning for the balance, or because of the split designation, that doesn't apply this time, or?
I believe that it's, planning is requesting that as a condition of the
Okay.
sentence. Mr. Lewis?
No, I've no questions.
Okay. So it appears that the committee has no real questions or concerns with the application. Mr. Coote?
Pardon me, Mr. Chair. It appears the deputy has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Just, Mr. Chair, just on a point of order in dealing with this application at this time, the applicant will have 1 year to satisfy conditions, and given that they're adjourning their other 2 items for another couple of months, I'm just wondering if consideration should be given to a decision today and then a decision in 2 months. By delaying this application by another 2 months, it just gives them a couple of extra months to satisfy all their conditions. But if they're prepared to go ahead at this time with this application, they will have 1 year to fulfill the conditions.
Yeah, I think this application is sort of separate from the other 2 in any event. So I believe the owners indicated that they wanted to proceed on this one today.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise that in case it was something they wanted if they wanted to. It's not too late at this time. The committee hasn't decided or voted whether or not it's just an option for them. It just gives them a couple of more months should they want to. They do have conditions relating to a zoning bylaw amendment, other conditions for water quality. So just wanted to raise that for consideration. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But I don't think the time period starts running until we decide anyway. So there's not a lot that can be done in advance until the consent is granted. So, maybe we'll get Mr. and Mrs. Coote back on.
Yes, we're here.
I have one quick question, Mr. Chair.
Well, proceed, Mr. Lewis.
Okay, I see there's split zoning on the property, ag at the front and rural, I believe, at the back. Where roughly, on my map it doesn't show it, where roughly is that line across the property? In the middle, closer to the back? I don't have that.
It's very close to the middle. It coincides with the north end of the wooded area. So I've not seen an exact location, only just what I can take off the official plan map, but it appears to be very close to the center line of the property. So a north half is agriculture and the south half is RU.
Okay, thank you.
So you heard the comments from the Deputy Secretary. I'm assuming you still want to proceed with the application, this one today?
I'm a little puzzled by the comment. I have never heard that there was a water quality issue with the house that we are currently living in. I don't know what that is about.
Yeah,
the condition.
I could probably clarify that for you. So typically on these severances in the agricultural zone, the standard conditions are that that an agreement just be registered on title, that the city does not guarantee the quality or quantity of the water for the property that will be severed. It's a simple agreement. You have to have a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone the remainder of the agricultural portion of the property, so someone else can't build another house on it, because that would defeat the purpose of the surplus farm dwelling. And then typically we request road widening across the severed lands, if required. So those are the standard conditions. So do you have any objection to those standard conditions?
No.
Okay. The other thing I would point out too is that you have 1 year to fulfill these conditions. So you'll probably, if this application is approved, you'll probably want to hire someone to assist you with the rezoning, etc., because that takes some time. So you'll have to get on that fairly quickly so your time period doesn't expire.
Yes, and we also need a proper survey.
Correct. Okay. Alrighty. That being said, then I will poll the members of the committee for their vote on this application. Mr. Lewis,
I'm in support.
Mr. Otto,
I'm in support.
Ms. Chandler.
Yes, I will support the application.
Okay, so the application is approved subject to the conditions requested, but in accordance with the committee's normal practice, the road widening would be across the severed portion of the lands only. So there you go. We're all set. Mr. and Mrs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are we free? Are we free to leave the hearing now?
You are free to leave. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
remind me when the other two applications are adjourned to?
We've already adjourned those until September the 16th. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is agenda item number 4, which is an application by John Shaw regarding the property at 3964 John Shaw Road. I believe Mr. Shipman is the agent on this matter.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Mr. Shipman, could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Jeff Shipman, 6563 Fourth Line Road. I'm agent on file for the applicant.
Okay, Mr. Shipman, I understand there's an amendment to the application. Before we proceed, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we received comments from the Ottawa Septic System Office. There was some concerns that the lot may not be big enough, or that the and septic. I spoke with Mr. Davis at the Ottawa Septic System Office yesterday. We agreed to increase the width of the lot by 10 meters on the septic system side, bringing it to a total frontage of 60 meters and a total lot area of 0.89 hectares, which adds another 0.14 hectare to the lot, or 1/3 of an acre. Mr. Davidson agreed that that would be sufficient. I believe he forwarded an email to the committee indicating his agreement with our change.
Okay. So just to confirm, then the changes to the application would be the land to be severed would have a lot frontage of 60 meters on John Shaw Road to a depth of 140 meters. It will have a lot area of 0.89 hectares. And the retained parcel would then have a lot area, according to my math, of 37.86 hectares. Is that correct?
38 hectares, more or less. The minor change in the size of the lot severance really doesn't impact the retained parcel. We don't know it that accurately.
Okay, so we should say then approximately 38.
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We have to ask him to swear an oath for the static.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, we did not have a statutory declaration on file regarding the sign posting, Mr. Shipman. So I'll just administer an oath confirming the signage was posted. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed, and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I do.
Okay, thank you. So please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a fairly straightforward surplus farm dwelling severance. We're severing the existing house, well, septic, and associated outbuildings from the larger farm property. I believe you're already aware of the areas involved. The retained land will be vacant. Vacant farm parcel. It's understood that a requirement of approval would be that the retained land is zoned to prohibit residential development.
Okay, and do you have any comment on the conditions proposed by the planning department for this application?
Only comment I would make, Mr. Chair, is on the widening that the committee impose their standard policy to apply the widening only to the severed portion.
Okay. I believe there were comments from Building Code Services too about a distance limiting agreement, a limiting distance agreement, but I don't think it applies here because there won't be any buildings adjoining this property, this lot that we're creating. So I don't think that applies at all. So.
Agreed.
Okay. Comments from members of the committee. Mr. Lewis?
No comments.
Ms. Chandler?
No comments.
Mr. Otto?
If we've increased the width of the lot by 10 meters, would that not decrease the broken frontage amount on John Shaw to maybe 483, or are those measurements just roughly approximates?
Yes, it would decrease the frontage. I've made the amendment on the sketch. So the little bit of frontage to the north of our lot has changed from 55 meters to 45 meters. So you're correct, the total frontage would be reduced by 10 meters.
Thank you.
So then, just for the record, then it would be 483 meters rather than 493 meters. Is that correct, Mr. Shipman?
Correct.
Okay, for the retained land frontage. Sorry, Mr. Walker, comments on this application?
The department has no concerns with the proposal. As noted in staff report, while it is committee's standard practice to remove road widening on the retained parcel in accordance with the PPS, the city's official plan, and confirmation from the city's legal services department, the road widening requirement should apply to both the severed and retained lands. So I'll pass no further comments at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we've got everybody's comments and questions. So I'll ask for members of the panel to vote on this application. Mr. Otto?
I'm in favor.
Okay, Ms. Chandler?
I support the application.
Okay, Mr. Lewis?
I'm in support.
Thank you. So, Mr. Shipman, the application is approved subject to the proposed conditions in the planning report, except that the road widening will only be required across the severed lands.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. The next agenda item is agenda item number 5, which is an application by Bruno Olivero concerning the property at 4100 Vaughan Side Road. And I believe the agent on file is Tracy Zander.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. It's Tracy Zander. I am here. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you just state your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's Tracy Zander from Zander Plan Inc. I am at 40 Sunset Boulevard in Perth, K7H2Y4.
Thank you. And I understand we do have a statutory declaration on file with respect to this application.
Yes, I believe my client submitted that this morning.
Okay, thank you. So maybe you can just briefly describe the application. I understand it's a lot line, a fairly straightforward lot line adjustment. Is that correct?
Yes, I think this is quite straightforward. I assisted Mr. Oliviero a couple of years ago to sever a lot in the northwest corner of his property. It shows on our sketch. Subsequent to that, Mr. Oliviero reached an arrangement with his neighbor, Mr. McPhail, to do a lot addition. And so the sketch, as you see it, is a lot line adjustment, a lot addition to enlarge Mr. McPhail's property that is abutting. So I don't think there's any policy issues with this. It's quite straightforward, and it nicely squares off Mr. McPhail's lot.
Okay, and what's the purpose of the lot enlargement?
Just additional lands for Mr. McPhail's use. It was kind of wasted space on Mr. Oliviero's land, so they reached an agreement just for him to have more land to use with his property.
Perhaps now we'll hear from Mr. Walker from Planning.
Mr. Chair, the department has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with the proposed lot line adjustment as it is appropriate for its intended use.
Okay, thank you. Questions from members of the committee? Ms. Chandler.
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
Nope, no problem. Straightforward.
Okay. Mr. Otto?
No questions.
I just had one question for Mr. Walker. If this is granted and the lot is enlarged, would the applicant then be able to sever the lot in half at some point down the road?
Mr. Chair, the applicant would not be able to.
Because of the merger on title and because it's a lot line adjustment, is that correct?
Because of the policies of the official plan, the lot would not be a lot in existence at the time the official plan policy came into place.
Okay, thank you. I think there was just we just wanted to clarify that to see. Any other comments from you, Ms. Zander?
No, I have reviewed the conditions as well and have no concerns.
Okay, thank you. So I'll ask members of the committee to vote on this matter. Ms. Chandler?
I support.
Thank you. Mr. Otto?
I support.
Mr. Lewis?
Just back, there are no conditions other than a survey, isn't there?
It would just be the standard merger on title, a reference plan, and then the properties being merged on title.
Yeah.
So they can't be split again.
50-12, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. So the application is approved, Ms. Sanders, subject to the conditions. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you very much.
The next application, agenda item number 6, which is an application by 2073945 Ontario Inc. concerning the property at 6150 and 6160 Hazeldean Road and 25 Neil Avenue. I believe the agent on file is Krista Libman.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. I believe we have the statutory declaration on that file, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. So you can proceed and just give us a brief overview of the application. I believe it's a request to create 2 new lots. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I did submit a presentation if the coordinator would like to share that.
Maybe we can just put up the reference plan and you can very briefly describe what's going there.
So on the northern portion, we've already developed a phase 1 with a medical office building and with a restaurant. There's parking in the rear. And then phase 2 will front on Neil Avenue. And it's not really clear what the plan development is there yet, but it will be subject to site plan control at the time of development. Both properties benefit from an easement over the property to the east at 6130 Hazeldean. And so, so each have access to Hazeldean and to Neil Avenue, though Hazeldean Road is a right in, right out.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the planning department?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The department has reviewed the proposal and has no concerns with the requested severances. Staff is satisfied that they are appropriate.
Okay. Questions from members of the committee? Mr. Lewis?
A quick question. I remember doing the medical building restaurant not too long ago. Has construction started on those yet?
Yes, they're complete. They're occupied.
I drive by there quite often. I never noticed. Thank you.
It's a Royal Oak.
I think they opened their patio last week or the week before, Mr. Lewis.
I remember the talk about parking at the time, and we concluded that the restaurant and the medical building probably wouldn't be using the parking spaces at the same time if everything worked out.
Yes, there was a minor variance granted for reduced parking.
Right. Good.
Mr. Otto?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Chandler?
None.
Thank you. Have you had an opportunity to review the proposed conditions, Ms. Libman?
Yes, and in fact, regarding the comment from Building Code Services about a limiting distance separation agreement, we were in contact with them and provided the required information. And I believe Mr. Durham sent an email to the committee yesterday saying that that agreement is not required.
Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming most of these issues would be dealt with through the site plan control process. And I think there's just comments in there. You have to confirm that there's adequate services available for these developments, et cetera. But I'm assuming your client is aware of all of those.
Yes.
Okay. All righty. I don't think there's any other questions or comments, so I'll ask the members of the committee to vote on this. Mr. Otto?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Okay. Mr. Lewis?
Support.
Ms. Chandler?
Support.
Okay, so your application is approved. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much.
So agenda item number 7 has been adjourned. So we're going to skip over to agenda item number 8. 9 and 10, I believe, will all be heard together. And I believe the agent on file for those applications is Ms. Curtis. And these are applications by West Ottawa Land Holdings, Cabela's Retail, and Canada West Centre, Inc. for various servicing and other easements and rights of ways.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. It's Ann Curtis here.
Good morning. Could you just state your full name and address for the record, please?
Yes, it's Ann Curtis. My address is 50535 Murray Street in Ottawa.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
And with me is Alex Turner, and he is prepared to make the statutory declaration you need for these.
Thank you. So, Mr. Turner, can you swear the oath with respect to all 3 applications?
Sorry, yes.
Okay, so just for the record, we'll do them one at a time because there are different applicants for each application. So for the application B00117.
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't.
For application B00117 by
Yes.
Ottawa Land Holdings, Inc., do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
I do.
Okay. For application number B00116 by Cabela's Retail Canada ULC, do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applied 4 days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes.
Thank you. And for application number B00113 and B00114 by Canada West Centre, Inc., do you solemnly swear or affirm that the notice provided by the committee was posted at the property to which the application applies for the prescribed number of days before the hearing as instructed and was clearly visible and legible during that time?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Curtis, maybe what we can do is we can put up a plan showing the various parcels and then what's being proposed. And I'm not sure if there's any amendments we have to address with respect to the applications as well. So,
no amendments for these 3 applications, which we're going to discuss all together. And this plan shows essentially the 3 property owners who are the applicants under each of their applications, and it all looks more complicated than in fact it is. Cabela's, the parcel of land in yellow, That was developed back in 2015 when there was nothing but vacant land around it. And it was done by way of severance from this committee with consent. And there were no roads, no services, and associated with the consent was a joint use and maintenance agreement, which I believe I filed with our packages, called it a mutual easement and operating agreement, whereby Cabela's and West Ottawa, who at that time owned not only their current lands, which are outlined in purple in the north, but also the lands presently owned by Canada West Centre, which are outlined in red. So that agreement specified that where the roads were more or less going to be and the services, and it also provided that once they were installed, applications would be made to the Committee of Adjustment in order to make those easements permanent. And that's exactly what our applications are doing today. And about a year after Cabela's had bought its lands, West Ottawa transferred the title to Canada West Centre of the lands outlined in red. So the drive aisles are essentially what existed in that 2015 mutual easement and operating agreement. When Canada West Centre became an owner, they signed on to that, and there's another joint use agreement between it and West Ottawa. So basically those three properties linked together. And now that the roads have been installed and the services are defined, these are three applications are to make the consents permanent.
Thank you. Maybe we'll hear from planning on this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The department has had an opportunity to review all of the applications, both for the easement and the severance, and has no concerns. As it relates to the severance, it is important to note that as per section 73 of the zoning bylaw, the entire site is considered one lot for zoning purposes. And as such, the typical requirement as per section 59 of the zoning bylaw for the severed lot to have frontage directly onto a public street would not apply in this case.
Okay, thank you. Members of the committee, questions? Ms. Chandler.
No questions.
Mr. Lewis? I think you're on mute, Mr. Lewis.
No, I have no questions. Thanks. Sorry about that.
No problem. Mr. Otto?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, I just had a quick question for Ms. Curtis. So all of these lots are being developed still in various stages, and the whole thing, I guess, is subject to site plan control. Is that correct?
Yes, I was going to get to that when we got to the severance application involving StrucTube. Yes, it's all subject to site plan approval, and in fact, the amendment, the minor deviation, I think they call it, for the StrucTube development has been approved. And the plans, the elevations which we'll put up indicate that they have been approved.
Yeah, okay.
And just one other thing, the West Ottawa lands and the Canada West Centre are now on a registered plan of subdivision. In fact, we have 5 plans of subdivision in the surrounding area now. It's only the Cabela's property that is not on a plan of subdivision.
Okay, thank you. So I think the committee's had a chance to review this, and I think there aren't any concerns with the applications, to my knowledge. So I think the best way to proceed is we'll ask for the committee's vote on each application separately. So first, with respect to agenda item number 8, an application B00117, I would ask the committee to vote on that. Ms. Chandler?
I'm in support.
Mr. Lewis?
I'm in support.
Mr. Otto?
I'm in support.
So the application, agenda item number 8 by West Ottawa Land Holdings, Inc. is approved. Next, we move on to number 9, application B00116, Cabela's Retail Canada ULC. Mr. Otto?
Yes, I'm in favor.
Mr. Cameron?
Support.
Mr. Lewis?
We're good.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, agenda item number 10, applications B00113 and 114 by Canada West Centre Inc. Mr. Lewis?
Good with that one too.
Ms. Chandler?
Support.
Mr. Otto?
Support.
Okay. So Ms. Curtis, all of the applications have been approved. I'm assuming you and the planning department can figure out if any of these have to be done in a certain order or whatever. We'll leave that to you to figure out. So, but anyway, all of the applications have been approved. So
Actually, Mr. Chairman, I need to jump in. I thought we were going to do 3 and then going to do the severance for Strut Tube separately, but since now it's been approved, I do need to speak to the minor technical amendment that needs to be made, which is, and it has been filed with the committee. And basically what it does is it includes as the proposed easements rights over the roadways and the storm and sanitary sewers that have just been approved in application 1114. In other words, you approve something that then needs to be added to the Strut Tube one.
okay, so which application? So if you
So
can,
the
application that needs to be amended, and then we can go through the amendments. My apologies for that.
Yeah, no, I know it's it's 1113, the application for consent to sever the lot for a Strut Tube.
Okay, that's agenda item number 10.
Yes.
And what are the specific amendments then that are required to the application?
Okay. So it has nothing to do with the consent for the law. It is more the easements that accompany it.
Okay.
And right now, it has it gets an easement. What in the current application, it was an easement for new storm and sanitary sewers, but it also needs to have added to that the storm and sanitary sewer that is on the retained lands that Canada West Centre in the application 1114 has granted to Cabela's and West Ottawa. Okay. And similarly with the drive aisle, the driveway that runs right along, and you can see it actually in this, what's on the screen now.
Okay.
This is an easement granted by Cabela's, but you can see the drive aisle to the eastern boundary, along the eastern boundary of Cabela's, but that is located on Canada West Centre's lands. So logically, that needs to be included in the conveyance to Strut Tube, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can someone just put up the wording then for the amendment to the application so we can just see it and then approve it so we know what's being amended?
Yeah, I think Cheryl Williams and I spoke about it this morning, so she is familiar with it.
I just wonder if staff has that wording so we can see it.
Is Cheryl Williams there? Maybe not.
We'll just give staff a minute to see if they can find that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we'll pull up the wording for you. Just one moment.
Thank you very much. Again, my apologies, Ms. Curtis, for jumping the gun on this.
Oh, no, that's fine. As I say, it's less complicated than it looks, but it is pretty complicated. You should have seen the engineering drawings that we slogged through, Alex Turner and myself.
Yeah.
Before we even got to the parts on the reference plans.
Okay.
Oh, yes, there it is. Perfect.
Okay, so these easements are essentially the servicing easements for the parcel to be severed.
And the access. So
And the access, yes.
yeah, what these proposed easements look like in the application is, well, one is fine. It just stopped with respect to part 5 on the draft reference plan, and then we added in part 3 on the other reference plan, which is now just been approved by the committee under 00114.
Okay. Alrighty. So that's fine then. Okay.
I think it makes sense to do that.
Yes, it does. Yes. Because it just completes it, because it was slightly incomplete before. So.
Well, the ironic thing is they were mentioned also in this application, but under paragraph 3, because they hadn't been approved yet. So we said, you know, and these are proposed there. So anyway, they were difficult applications from a technical point to
Yes, I think
together.
so.
You can imagine, I think.
Yeah. I'll just ask planning if they have any concerns with the proposed amendments.
Mr. Chair, staff has no concerns.
Okay, thank you. So on that basis, then I'm going to ask the panel to approve the proposed amendments and then reapprove the application as amended for agenda items number 10. So, Ms. Chandler?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes to both.
And Mr. Lewis?
Approved.
Thank you. So I think we've got it all straightened out now, Ms. Curtis. So you should
Thank you very much.
work on that for a day or two, figuring all that out. So anyway, so I think that's it. Thank you very much, Ms. Curtis. Does anyone have any further business before the committee? If not, then I propose that we adjourn the hearing until the next meeting of the committee on August the 5th. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great week.
Till we meet again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good week.